2018, the debut trailer for the Titans proudly featured Robin killing a bunch of folks before unironically announcing, "Congratulations DC, with the combined street cred of Suicide Squad and the Arrowverse, you made yourself a pinata for the internet."
This is not Damian, right?
No, it's Grayson, because it said Grayson in the beginning.
What the fuck?
No one had any patience for this, especially when most people fondly remember Teen Titans for not being murderers. However, why was the show so counterproductively dark? 4 simple words. Fear of the markets. Superhero stuff was everywhere, so appealing to a young adult audience while being brutal and vulgar made sense in terms of standing out, especially when development started in 2016, the year a Batman Superman movie featured a woman being pushed into an oncoming train.
We live in a world where, there's been 25, 30 years of superhero movies since then, and the world has changed, and we wanted to put this in a real psychologically and emotionally grounded universe.
How do I know you're not going to kill me?
Because now I know what it's like to die.
As a result, the trailer everyone made fun of actually wasn't really misrepresenting the show. It is exactly what it is. This is the part where I usually say, yeah, well, but despite the shortcomings, I was charmed. No. Dick Grayson hates Batman for raising him with only what he knew, how to manipulate people and focus his trauma so his rage can be directed towards punishing the guilty.
But you can't be Robin anymore because for all the good he did, ultimately he was an echo chamber for Bruce's pain, and for yours.
Whereas people like his childhood best friend, Donna Troy, was raised with what Wonder Woman knew, love and compassion.
She showed me how to fill the hole that fire left in my life with love and with family. Bruce filled that hole in your life the only way he knew how. With rage and violence.
Therefore, in Dick's young adulthood, he left Gotham after falling out with the old man. And I mean old man. However, instead of being free, Grayson is imprisoned by a cycle of increasing concentrated hatred perpetuated by the fact that Bruce isn't there to defend himself when he's angry at him.
Because I was becoming too much like him.
Dick has even grown comfortable enough to say that he never even wanted to be adopted in the first place. And at the end of the season, Dick succumbs to Trigon's influence by killing Batman in his nightmare. As I quote from Kendo Ticket, who, citing 2 other scholars, Brewer and Elliot, note that when children are abused, they develop an internal working model where they see the world as a dangerous place because they have been powerless in the past. They may overestimate danger and adversity in their current environment. This may cause adult survivors to underestimate their own sense of self-efficacy and self-worth in dealing with both real and perceived danger. They may also have chronic perceptions of helplessness, powerlessness, and danger. These distortions can contribute to emotional distress and increase the risk of depression.
There's a f***ing tracker in my arm?
Yeah. Mine too. Don't you remember him putting it in?
Look, Jason, he might have you thinking that you're a partnership, but everything Bruce does is in the best interest of one person. Bruce, why do you even want to be Robin?
Are you kidding?
However, it must be stated that none of the sheer intensity of these feelings are actually real. It's all in Dick's head, and next season, when he reunites with Bruce, all the bad air is immediately released. Dick's version of reality was distorted precisely due to a disconnect with the person he's built his entire reality around, and this reunion allows Dick to cure all this poison.
Well done.
I learned from the best.
What traditionally makes comic book Dick Grayson complex is the fact that he didn't end up falling in the same abyss Bruce fell into. Perhaps he was weaponized, but because he got to catch the man who killed his parents early, for the rest of Dick's life, he won't always be looking for him.
I know you only did what you knew, what you thought was best for me. The training, everything.
Since you indoctrinated Robin into crime fighting at the ripe old age of 9.
Robin needed to help bring the men who murdered his family to justice.
So he could turn out like you?
So that he wouldn't.
He can instead look for the beauty and the love in people. It's why Dick Grayson is particularly charismatic and such an attractive, cool guy.
Because you cared more than I did.
However, this version of Dick in season 1 is not there yet. His time away has created an abyss, and his hatred has made him fall into it. What allows him to climb out is his time with his new friends.
You gonna watch till the bitter ends, or are you ready to get out of here?
Raven is running away from a cult. Dick is quick to protect her, but slow to look after her. However, as he commits to ensuring her safety,
I'm not going anywhere, okay?
And shares this with other people on their journey, like Beast Boy and the amnesiac Starfire, who's actually here to kill Raven for an intergalactic mission. She gets over it. The act of forming positive, reciprocal social connections is what slowly improves Dick's essential well-being, and everyone becomes less at risk of descending into negative beliefs or hostility with each other.
You were talking in your sleep.
Dick realizes his aggression isn't solely due to Bruce's influence, but are from his own choices.
Robin was gonna fix everything. But you ruined it!
So he abandons the Robin persona. The true mechanism of this group is for them to feel safe. And in the end, what pulls Dick out of his dark possession is his connection with Raven.
Dick, please.
On paper, a great structure is here. Each season is serialized around how emotions run their course, while every episode serves as a vignette for a certain character. In contrast to the Arrowverse shows, Titans doesn't feature a universe where metahumans are suddenly a new phenomenon, but it features a fully realized DC universe with an established history resembling the comics. Except everyone casually kills here, I guess. The Justice League are never seen, instead their presence is articulated through the impression left on the characters. There was an original Titans team, but it disbanded, leaving everyone riddled with regret and guilt. What happened to Dick, Donna Troy, and Hawk and Dove is a mystery.
You know the drill.
Consequently, every narrative choice complements each other fairly well in creating a thick, stoic, and lonely mood. Dick is dark, and dark is Dick. However, this grimness creates a paradoxical self-sabotaging effect where all this history and world building that by nature should feel imaginatively inviting isn't because of the sheer uncharismatic tone. I regularly kept thinking to myself, even if the Justice League showed up, it would probably just be people standing in grey rooms in tuxedos talking about goofy comic book stuff with the most unnecessarily stoic demeanors. In other words, it feels like a fan film.
You're welcome, by the way, for saving your life.
And you're welcome for me saving your life.
Which makes sense to an extent, because the budget of Titans was an estimate around $2 to $2.5 million per episode, while a typical Arrowverse episode costs around $5 million. But the level of experience behind the scenes, Akiva Goldsman, Jeff Johns, it's kind of baffling though.
No!
Now that Dick has cleared of his hatred, he's on the journey to become Nightwing, a process that involves overcoming a different pain. Guilt. Dick is the reason why the original Titans disbanded. 5 years ago, Deathstroke accidentally killed Aqualad. He was a chill surfer dude who loved Donna Troy, and as one of Dick's closest childhood friends, was a key figure in keeping Dick's dark instincts in harmony with enjoying his young adulthood.
I thought Bruce made you read the classics. It wasn't about power, domination, or suppressing my emotions. Bruce didn't have me read it. So the whole Batman thing turns you on.
Don't be Batman.
As revenge, Dick then went full Batman.
Be Batman.
He discovers Slade's son, Jericho, who has the power to possess people due to inheriting Slade's altered genes, and recruits him. The Titans offers him friendship and a chance to be a hero.
Things are very different now. It's not about your dad now. We want you to join us.
So, Jericho goes as far as leaving his mother for them. However, this wasn't Dick's actual plan. He used him to reach his real target, and it leads to Slade killing his own son. Dick then lies by saying Slade didn't do it by accident. So, his role is covered, but the Titans disband anyway, believing they've gone too far. Aqualad and Jericho were these beautiful, positive people who made the Titans more than just painful souls trying to overcome the past with violence. They encouraged them to simply be present.
It took Jericho for someone to finally be honest around here.
90-year-old fish is still faster than a beer-bellied bird, my friend. Maybe it doesn't matter what we tell Jericho.
So we use him again?
Because you're the fierce Amazon warrior, and I'm the impulsive Atlantean who drifts wherever the current takes me, right?
What's happening to you?
You told me, be Batman.
The true purpose of the Titans team, in the past and in the present within the show, is to primarily act as a support group.
We can help him use it the right way for the right reasons.
Where young people can find guidance through positive social connections and have access to mentorship, so they can assess who they are becoming. Now that Dick has another group of kids, he brings the Titans back. But that also brings Deathstroke back. At the center of season 2 is a question of how much actual choice does the characters have in determining who they are. Slade's children have to pick between him or the Titans. Raven is the daughter of Trigon. Hawk and Dove want a normal life where they can be parents, but the addiction to violence breaks them up.
So there wasn't much left to put back together.
Sounds about right.
And the most literal case study is Superboy, a Superman clone whose DNA is stabilized by Lex's.
Sometimes that anger will be yours. And sometimes it will be his.
So he's torn by contradictory impulses, altruism and impatient selfish rage, so he must consciously review what every individual action means.
Just remember, people are not what they say they're going to do. They are what they do.
No one has the clarity, experience, discipline, or devotion as Dick does, so as the leader, he can finally become a better Batman.
She doesn't want to stay.
You didn't want to stay either, not at first.
As a result, restoring the Titans restores a unique habitus, which refers to both habits and the physical reasons why we have them. The two then creates the social rules that aren't written but dictate how we behave. As Pierre Bourdieu once said, habitus is both a system of schemes of production of practices and a system of perception and appreciation of practices.
Would you do it again? Take me in. Devote all that time and trouble for someone that just wants to leave?
I would do everything exactly the same.
As a result, habitus affects what we think is possible in the positions of our lives.
This is a family of choice.
And you see this when the characters are apart. Ironically, as the original Titans reassembled fight Slade, Dick revealing the truth about Jericho causes them to disband again, and they all individually get into completely avoidable problems. That's incredibly frustrating to watch. It makes no sense. Hours pass for some characters, but Dick gets thrown into prison to punish himself, but that would take months. Slade declares as long as the Titans stay apart, his war with them is over, but apart, they all decay into their worst instincts. They can't just be friends with other people, I guess. Titan Season 2 is incredibly uneven. Most of the episodes never earn their 40-minute runtime because it's either filled with unnecessary one-step forward, two-step backward story decisions, and also excessive dream sequences. However, the production value is way better, and the 2 flashback episodes finally provide the sense of inviting warmth the rest of the show was so desperate to avoid. They're great. On a thematic level, the tonal difference and contrasts is designed to present the loss of hope. But should it not be present with the new team again to show its restoration? But anyway, it is in recognizing what this team offers.
Walking away from bad feelings is easy. It's much harder to take the blow and come back for more, but that's what a family does.
They reassemble, and Dick becomes Nightwing.
This is my fight.
Although unfortunately the last episode is a fucking hell nightmare, and I'm gonna rush through it just so you can get a good picture of how any good this show can reach. It'll be limited by its own careless, inconsistent lunacy. Jericho has actually taken refuge in Deathstroke's mind, and after Slade is stabbed to death by Rose, I guess he doesn't have super healing in this universe despite giving it to her, Jericho speaks to Dick through Rose. It's nice, but the dialogue in typical Titans fashion is absurdly blunt.
We're together again. You were always a part of our family.
In fact, all the emotional speeches are just people recounting what they did before.
When you touched me, you reminded me who I really was.
Dick Grayson invites Connor into this family. Dawn does the superheroine thing of inspiring a little girl, while Donna Troy does the uninspiring thing of randomly dying from electricity. There's even a funeral. It's so stupid. Dick then speaks with Bruce about his hesitations, so we can redo the whole Dick assembles the team and then doesn't know if he did the right thing again and again and again, while Hawk and Dove remain broken up, but are still superhero partners. A toast is made for Donna. A toast is made for taking Dick back.
F***ing thirsty.
But what about Jason Todd? We've overcome hatred and guilt, so Season 3 is themed around death. In Titans, death functions as a mirror to the habitus. It either reveals, breaks, or reforms each character's inner structures that governs their identity. For sweet Jason, he just can't stop being a little bitch. Jason Todd is very dependent on the Robin persona to give him a sense of invincibility.
Why do you think it makes us wear those lame colors? Because we're drawing fire.
An escape from his own existence.
My mother was a smack addict and he killed her. My dad was murdered by Two-Face.
This power was lost when Deathstroke dropped him off a building. For the first time, he had to accept that he can actually die. At this moment, Jason is hit with a choice. He has people who love specifically just him, just Jason, the girl he's involved with.
Molly likes Jason, because Jason's a real person.
And Bruce Wayne, who tells him to stop being Robin and just be his son.
You don't need to wear a costume to be my son.
To move forward, he could acknowledge the trauma by stop withdrawing from his Jason Todd side and let the identity be the one who gives him power, safety, and value, now that Robin no longer can provide them.
Because Jason's a real person. Robin, on the other hand, is a construct. Robin is the living embodiment of that man's projection, and that's what you're afraid of not being? A ghost.
He can realign himself with his habitus. However, Jason continues to make the wrong choice. He creates a confidence booster with Scarecrow's fear toxin. Then they work together for the most convoluted villain scheme, which goes full steam ahead after Jason died and trying to prove himself to Bruce. The whole death scene, by the way, is just whack. Like, Jason is immediately ambushed and killed. Scarecrow then resurrects Jason with the Lazarus Pit, so then they can be the season's villains. Someone clearly played a lot of Arkham Knight, right down to the fact that they want to force Gotham to give in to terror with the toxin, so they will then stop hoping for a hero and worship them.
You'll be their mirror now.
The irony is that as much as dying released Jason's fear of it, resurrection didn't repair his habitus. He returned with further psychological instability because his core trauma was never healed. He still lost as Red Hood as he was before, because he's still running away from being Jason Todd. Especially now that the Titans go to Gotham. If habitus involves how early experiences shape automatic behaviors, emotional responses, and beliefs, then Jason's mission is to convince his old pals to give up on these automatic behaviors by trying to make them all succumb to the darkness. Jason fucking straps a bomb to Hawk's chest right after a whole nonsensical song and dance.
Start talking about a glove, it's gonna cost extra.
Dove needs to shoot Jason to save him. She does so, but her trigger is actually the detonator, so Hawk dies by Crypto's side. This whole conflict is also insanely morally shallow because the Titans has killed before and they will continue killing anyways, but I guess, you know, the darkness. Anyway, Hawk symbolically presents an alternative journey to Jason. He lived a difficult life where he and his brother were victims. He also lost him to an accident. Then over time, Hawk became addicted to violence, pills, and alcohol, in which every turn he took to correct his life led to more complications, more irreversible failures. However, Hawk always rediscovered his sense of purpose by realigning himself with the Titans.
Fine, clearly.
I couldn't let you die before I had a chance to apologize.
We'll talk about this later, Hank.
So Hank's death marks completion. His habitus does not need rebuilding, only peaceful resolution.
You put yourself between him and hell, some guy you met an hour ago, so don't tell me you're done being a hero.
Similarly, Donna's habitus remains intact as death tests her, not corrupt her. In the afterlife, the dead Titans must cross a bridge back to life while fighting ghouls who are trying to steal their souls for Hades. While Hawk is eager to help the living team again, Donna originally doesn't. She's accepted life in the show as being fundamentally repetitive nonsense.
I died at a carnival, Hank.
So she'd rather move forward to the next stage of death.
Who knows, maybe I'll come back as a clownfish.
What breaks the tie and convinces her is Tim Drake. Yes, it's the kid from the Batman, who was killed investigating Scarecrow, and he's genuinely great. He has a wide-eyed innocence to him, but he's not naive. They even adapted the whole figuring out who Batman and Robin is. Like Aqualad and Jericho, Tim is what they lost.
That's why I have to go back. What happened down there, that can't be my story.
He's a beacon of hope in the form of present-day joy and urgency. Though in the end, despite being fucking Reacher, Hawk can't reach the bridge. Donna can seemingly whip her lasso into the sky, but she couldn't grab him. Hawk instead continues in the afterlife with his brother to guide others. So despite his troubled life, the best part of himself, his values, they live on, even if he doesn't. From death, Donna finds redemption. From death, Tim is initiated. A deliberate rebuilding of habitus through symbolic death, so he can claim his identity as one of the heroes. Thus within this season, the habitus is given a transcendent quality, because whether resurrection heals or corrupts, it all depends not on the event itself, but on the state of the survivor's internal world. Titans oscillates between interesting character work with well-casted people, and writing that's constantly walking in mean-spirited and counterproductive circles. A parallel is presented, where Dick discovers his true identity by letting go of the darkness.
But you drove Dick away.
We worked it out.
Jason breaks from the darkness, and that becomes his new identity. However, this contrast triggers a crisis of responsibility and guilt for Dick, because now he's in the same position Bruce was.
He won't admit that he failed Jason.
The Titans failed Jason more than anyone, Barbara. Batmobile joyrides, a motorcycle on the staircase.
I was practicing my tactical maneuvers.
And those websites he bookmarked, he had a lot of problems, and we didn't have the patience for him.
And it gets even worse. Alfred and Jim Gordon are dead. Barbara hates Bruce. So now, Bruce fundamentally cannot bear the weight of his crusade all alone, so he killed the Joker and leaves.
Do what I couldn't. Be a better Batman.
That line is true, because Dick, in the end, doesn't shoot Jason in the face. But then, Dick gets shot and beaten to death by Jason's fanboys.
Red Hood!
Jason then runs off regretful, but then he goes back to Scarecrow in the Batcave and he's completely back to normal again.
What, do you want a cookie?
Scarecrow commences his plans to kill everyone in the city, and then Jason runs away like a little bitch again. Raven and Beast Boy resurrects Dick with the Lazarus Pit, and Dick truly becomes a better Batman as he continues to put his hand out for Jason, and they both team up for reals. Although Dick has to keep Jason a secret to avoid infighting within the Titans.
Out.
I can't bring you back to the Titans, it'll cause a war.
These characters are so fucking immature that they definitely wouldn't prioritize for their problems. Symbolic death allows Dick to reshape his habitus, aligning with autonomy and compassion, not inherited trauma. And then in the end, Scarecrow is defeated, Bruce returns, and Jason thanks him for killing the Joker. This whole exchange is so rich in possibilities, but the show is too goddamn shallow to really deal with it.
When you killed the Joker, did you do that for me?
Yes, I did.
Thank you.
I can often overlook and even be charmed by the inconsistent and nonsensical writing in the Arrowverse because they share the same intelligence and tone as a 60s Saturday morning cartoon, but Titans demands you to take it seriously, while often substituting complexity with cliched meanness that makes you actively dislike almost everyone. And that reached a point of insanity in season 3 because it kept running in circles. I was so close to giving up on the show, but I had 12 episodes left.
You actually prefer Dick?
The Titans go bowling. After everything that's happened with Dick, he finally enjoys just being a surrogate parent with Starfire. However, Superman wants to meet Connor, so everyone is all jazzed about going to Star Labs, and I can't believe they put even more money into the show. However, not that much more because Superman's in deep space right now, so he doesn't actually appear.
That is Superman.
Lex wants to see Connor, who's eager to see at least one of his fathers, so the Titans support him by trying to stop Lex's obvious evil plans before they begin.
Like a personal, medical, financial...
Although he actually just wants Connor to be his heir, since he's dying from kryptonite poisoning and Connor can save him actually.
His purpose is not yours. I still need to find out.
I can't stress the sheer amount of preemptive frustration I felt, especially after seeing this poster, because here we go again, another season about a Titan dumb enough to be manipulated by an obvious villain, who doesn't even have to pretend to have a point. But then Lex dies from magical snakes coming out of his mouth, and Connor's bold face isn't an evil face, but actually a good-intentioned rebellious one. I mean, he has a need to be effective for others, but after several fails from the magic-based villains, he decides to lean towards his other side.
Because I'm winning so hard? Leather jacket, the bald head. I get it, you're changing, you're growing. That's all good. Just trust me, you don't want it to happen too fast. We don't kill people, Connor.
We're not murderers.
Got it. Except for all the people you've murdered.
He actually defeats the villains at the halfway point of the season by stopping their rituals with satellites.
If we don't reposition these satellites now, we miss our chance.
If the Blood Moon does not return to us, we are...
It will.
This was so awesome that, just like that, this season is a whole different animal, and this goes for everything. The Titans aren't always bafflingly 10 steps behind the villain's scheme. Characters actually act sincere with each other.
Hanging out with you these past few days, it's been a lot more fun than I expected.
I don't casually murder people anymore.
Oh, thank you.
Season 4 taps into the talent that was always there just by achieving the bare minimum, and in doing so, unlocked unironic greatness, which is wild because the production people are still the same. Apparently the cast just had more say this time, like Ryan K. Potter, who played Beast Boy, got to help write his own Beast Boy centric episode, where he discovers he's destined to be the protector of the red, which connects all animal life together. It's here you're fully introduced to the central theme of the season and the entire show's anchor.
It's really important you understand this. Life isn't about the individual. It's not a single pool of water that evaporates. It's a collective. It's a river that flows forever. Our spirits mixing, healthy or not, as a whole, as one.
If we develop our habitus from early life experiences because it formulates our instincts on how to act, feel, or interpret the world, what the Titans gave all the characters at the end of their journeys was the corrective emotional experiences to see those patterns in their reactions, beliefs, and behaviors. They recognize this isn't who I am, it's what I learned to survive, thus loosening the grip of their trauma-based habitus. Gar's future is lonely. Being in the red means being above relationships, and this breaks his heart, so he decides to wield this power to serve his family. On an individual level, he has a moment where he comforts his younger self, and on an existential level, he sees the deeper connections across the multiverse. Grant Gustin's Flash, Stargirl, and Grant Morrison. Everyone is a neighbor, nobody's alone. In contrast, the villain is the antithesis of this. Sebastian, aka Klaus, aka Brother Blood, desperately wants to feel connected, but he's plagued by the anxiety of being left behind when he is loved.
Someone else comes along.
As Raven's brother, he knows he can change, but he's still seduced by the devotion offered to him by the Church of Blood, who wants to bring Trigon back again. Although Sebastian just wants the power to secure himself. The whole conflict is not exactly original, but keeps everything together with just enough dramatic pressure that it can have stakes, but also he's understandable enough that when Connor goes rogue to work with him, it's sympathetic to an extent.
Yes.
That whole team up, by the way, is just great because Connor sees he's gone too far, so then he secretly acts as the Titan's inside man to stop Sebastian's plans.
I think the new CEO of LexCorp is on our side.
This f***ing season has got the vibes, so much so that I didn't even want to punch a baby when Jason returned for a second.
He'll be a better Robin than me.
In the end, Sebastian tries to destroy Earth and Tamarin with a wormhole or something, because after only experiencing cruelty and pain, he's now obsessed with inflicting pain as a god, because that's how he only sees the world now. The Titans beat his ass and Starfire takes him to the skies to sacrifice herself as he blows. In a moment of silence, we remember the good times. The last Christmas the Titans enjoyed, and they talk about two different types of people.
Oh, Christmas morning people are all about the presents, right? The instant gratification. But Christmas Eve is all about the hope, the excitement, the anticipation, because all the good things are still in the future, yet to come.
I won't be Batman.
Then don't.
You're not the only one to ever have to go through this. Me, Corey, Rachel, Gar, we've been there.
Don't be Batman or Robin. Be something else.
We're close to the darkness. We seek it out.
The city does things to us.
We've all had to fight a battle with our dark side.
We take the worst parts of ourselves and put them in control.
You should ask yourself one question. The things you did. The things you did where you might have crossed the line. Sometimes it has its way.
Sometimes I think it's alive. Like it has a will.
Did you do it for yourself or to help other people?
I'm sorry, Dick. What does it matter? I still did it.
Yeah, but the why is important. Real bad guys out there, they never ask that question. Here's to all the good things in the future yet to come.
Every character has experienced a crisis of identity rooted from an inner fragmentation caused by disconnection. They understand the darkness inside each other, which everyone can't stop talking about, is about how time doesn't heal wounds, reunions do. Anticipation is the key to forming one's habitus. In the present, Dick stays just long enough to see Starfire return actually. The Titans have their last meal together. Goth will leave for the Red, but it won't be too far, he'll be there. Raven is leaving for university. Tim is leaving because his life is now split between Metropolis and Gotham. Superboy will spend more time with Superman, while Starfire and Dick are destined to have a daughter together, while this whole group is destined to always be together. So we have this security as they walk together across the night. It actually really touched me. So this video really shouldn't have taken like 2 weeks, but the writing got so messy because I tried to balance the analytical psychology stuff with more opinionated sentences, so it became a really complicated balancing act, like mixing ingredients of two completely different things. The final structure I've realized is that it's better to go back and forth like a ping pong game as opposed to meld the 2 points together, so that was kind of interesting. Hopefully I'll keep innovating this moving forward. Anyway, June is Superman month, where I'm doing a retrospective on like every single Superman show, from Lois and Clark to Krypton to the Legion of Superheroes animated show. Special thanks to everyone on Patreon because you're the guys who's making sure it's gonna happen. Ciao.